Hello and welcome to this video. It's a pleasure for me to see you here. And what are we talking about today? Today we are talking about CVSS, a common vulnerability scoring system. And if you want to know in a few words what this is, stay tuned. By the way, my name is Sven Ruppert. I'm developer advocate for JFrog, and if you like the security shorts, so security topics in a few words, in a few minutes explained, then it would be a pleasure for me to see you as my new subscriber on my channel and like and subscribe this video. So, and now, enough the words, let's start. So, let's talk about CVSS, a common vulnerability scoring system. Why do we need this and what is this? So, the common vulnerability scoring system is a description of how bad a vulnerability is, and the vulnerability can be in different layers of an application. It can be in the operation system, it can be in the program or whatever, and it's independent from the programming language or technology that's used. And to have this comparable system, or the system to compare vulnerabilities in different layers on different technologies, we need an abstraction layer on description that's abstract enough. This abstract description, I will explain it a little bit later, how it's built and what are the components of it, is more or less in the end the value between 0 and 10. 0 is not existing and 10 is a worst case scenario. It could be 1.5 or 7.3 or 8 or whatever, something in between. And this number is based out of three metrics, and the three metrics I will explain now. Okay, let's talk about the basic metric. So CVSS values are based on three metric: base metric, base metric, temporal metric, environmental metric. I will explain all of them and briefly, and we will start with the basic metric. Basic metric or the base metric is the worst case scenario of this vulnerability. So it's really what could happen, and it's a description of how it can be used. So for example, you have inside this base metric different components or different values you can set. These values are something like do you need a logged in user, yes or no? Do you need a user with administrative rights, yes, no? Or can you do it just as anonymous user? If you have this one, then you are selecting which one you need, and this will then transferred or transformed into a number. And all of these metrics have these different steps you can choose. For example, do you need a loopback device and network? Do you need physical access, yes or no? And then you're selecting, and then you will get out of this a corresponding number. And these numbers from these different values then are balanced between each other, and in the end you will get a final number out of this base metric between 0 and 10. So if you want to know more about how you can calculate it and what are the values and what is the meaning of each value for all the other metrics as well, then check out my YouTube channel. There is a video called CVSS metrics, and then I will go to each of this metric and all these values you can have, so that you are understanding more in detail what it is. But now for the basic understanding is you have this base metrics. It's a description of the worst case scenario. It's really the worst case. For this you are describing in each of these components what value, or you're selecting the value, and then you can use a CVSS calculator if you don't want to do the math by yourself. What the CVSS calculator is, I will explain in different security shorts, so check out there. And then you will get this number between 0 and 10. Make sure that you know which version of CVSS you are using, because it's 2, 3.0, 3.1 and so on. And then you have different components for this description, because this is more adapted to, for example, different technologies or different evolutions of a technology. Okay, so base metric is a worst case scenario. You have different components. For each component you're selecting which one is a level, or which one is right for this vulnerability. This will correspond in a number. All numbers together are balanced and composed into one single number that is then the base metric. The base metric is immutable, so it's not changed all the time, and it's a description of the worst case scenario of this vulnerability. The next one is a temporal metric. The temporal metric is something that's changing all the time because it is depending on what's going on. For example, part of the temporal metric is do you have a theoretical approach for this vulnerability? Do you have a proof of concept already, or do you have already a virus that is replicating and working completely autonomously? This is, for example, one of the values. Another value is, do you have a workaround, a patch, is this fixed, or whatever. So in general, you have here the description. What is the quality? What's the current state of this vulnerability? And this is changing all the time. So if you will get in CVS as a value, make sure that you know, is this a base metrics, a mutable worst case description, or is this already a temporal metric that will describe the current state of it? Most vulnerability database will give you the base metric because you want to know what is the worst case scenario, and then it depends, for example, if there's a patch already, if you patched your version already. So this is mostly the temporal metric is more or less the description, what is the best case depending on the current state, and the base metric is a worst case scenario that is immutable. Okay, and then again, make sure that you know which version you have. Okay, the last metric I want to explain is the environmental metric. The environmental metric is more or less a transformation of the base metric and temporal metric down to your environment. What does it mean? For example, if you have a vulnerability that is exploitable or that can be used over the local or over the wide area network. So you have a system, it's connected to the internet, and from everywhere you could just do it because this is part of the vulnerability. Then this value is very high. But in your environment, you don't have internet access because your network is air-gapped. Then you would say, okay, for this vulnerability, it's not accessible over there, or this can't be used over the wide area network. It can be just used over the local area network. So the vulnerability is not so great, or the base metric is not so high anymore because you need physical access to the local network to attack the system. Okay, this you normally must do for all the vulnerabilities that are applicable inside your system to have the true CVSS value for your environment, for your system. To tell the truth, this is a lot of work. And on the other side, how to calculate it. For this, you could use a CVSS calculator. Check out. I will do a separate security short about this one. But in the end, to see how critical the vulnerability is really for you and your environment, you have the environmental metric to scale it up and down. So based on your needs. So that's all. So you have this three metric, base metrics, the worst case scenario, immutable, temporal metric that's describing the current state of workarounds and quality of the vulnerability and virus and all this stuff. And the environmental metric is a scale up and down to your environment so that you have the real for you valid CVSS value. Okay, so that's enough. And if you like this, then give me a like and thumbs up for this, like and subscribe for this video. And otherwise, see you in the next security short. If you have any recommendations for other security shorts, write it down in the comments. Would be happy to see there more ideas. So then, I will put this one to my backlog. Otherwise, stay safe and see you.